Some of you may know that I used to work in the insurance industry, which was actually really interesting work. I enjoyed a lot of the time. And here's why. Because I enjoyed looking at risk. I enjoyed trying to predict human behavior. I enjoyed working with numbers. I enjoyed working with people when I managed large groups of people. It was an interesting area to work. And I worked in different kinds of insurance. I worked in a lot in health insurance, which is why today, knowing that industry so well, I am a full-throated supporter of Medicare for all. But I also worked in risk management, which is where corporations look at their overall exposure to risk and try to figure out how to minimize it. And there, my big specialty was workers' compensation, how to reduce the number of accidents, how to reduce the cost of those accidents, that sort of thing. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, if you're a regular listener of the Zero Hour or programs like it, that, oh, well, gee, wasn't that kind of putting the profit motive over human need? And the answer is, yeah, it kind of was. And when you get in the middle of it, particularly when it's that time in history, the 1990s and so on, you're not really thinking about that, right? You're just absorbed in, well, you got a job, it's a good job, you got a promotion, you find it intellectually interesting, all that stuff. I mean, I was never asked to do anything horrible, and I was never asked to say, I was never told, here are 500 people who need medical care and make sure they don't get it, that kind of thing. That's not what's wrong with our medical system today. That's not what's wrong with our health insurance system today. That's not what's wrong with capitalism today. It's not that simple. It's never a moment, in my experience, where people are forced to make moral decisions, because I think more often than not, people are like me, and if it were that naked, that exposed, they would make the right decision. I like to think that's true of a lot of people I used to work with. I'm pretty sure it is true. And I think it's true of people in general. The problem is the system. And one of the things that I was involved in when I was working in the insurance world was trying to see how computer technology, and this was in the first wave of people talking about AI or artificial intelligence, how that might change the way that the insurance company does business, how the way it underwrites, the way it manages risk, all that sort of thing. But these were very, very primitive days. If there are any computer nerds listening of a certain generation, in order to understand artificial intelligence a little better, for example, I tried to learn programming languages called Lisp and Forth that were basically the notion then, the theory then was that intelligence was a form of managing and manipulating lists. So these programs would take lists and adjust them and manage them. And I tried to see how that might be used in the insurance world. Well, we've come a long way since those primitive attempts to create an underwriting intelligence. And there was a great article in the New York Times about that. If by great, we mean utterly terrifying. And it was by, and of course, we didn't have smartphones or all the things we have today. It's by Sarah Jong, who is a good writer on this stuff. Headline: Insurers want to know how many steps you took today. And it was last week I talked about a pregnancy app that on a collective basis told employers all about the personal and sexual and health lives of their pregnant employees or wannabe pregnant employees. Well, there are smartphone apps that show, how often you brake and accelerate your car to see if you're a safe driver. There are algorithms that check your social media for risky behavior. There are programs that go through your Fitbit data and decide how long you're going to live, and then they drive the cost of your premiums. John Hancock, the insurance company, for example, lets you wear a fitness tracker, but it monitors you to see whether you're living a healthy life or not. Now, I've always thought, even back in my insurance days, I used to argue against programs like this because I thought they were intrusive and invasive, but we've reached another stage, a brave new world where every aspect of your personal life can be measured and manipulated manipulated for financial gain. In fact, it already is by internet companies. Now, insurance companies want to get in on the act. So I'm going to issue a shout out to my libertarian brothers and sisters out there. If you're so afraid of government invading your privacy, join us in stopping corporations from invading your privacy.